The Dragon gets a direct-to-video release. Here's a look at the new Diamond Select Bruce Lee the Dragon action figure. Bruce began to teach Kung Fu in Seattle and soon opened his first school, the Zhengfan Kung Fu Institute. Two more schools followed in Oakland and Los Angeles. Concurrently, Bruce married his wife Linda and had two children, Brandon and Shannon. In the mid-1960s, Bruce was discovered while doing an exhibition on the Long Beach Internationals, and TV roles soon followed. Figure design was from Yuri Ming, figure sculpt by Gentle Giant Studios. Illustration by Yuri Ming and Jack Tsai, and package design by Jack Tsai. In this review, we're going to be delving deeper into the new Dragon figure from Diamond Select. First, though, speaking of which, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide this sample of the new Bruce Lee Dragon figure that we can have a look at in this video. Contained inside of a VHS cover, which is something I'm going to bring back in a second for the review, because I did want to talk a little bit about that. First, though, I guess the first thing we did do was thank Diamond Select. So I suppose the second thing we're going to do is grab this tape measure of mine and just figure out how tall Bruce Lee stands. Going to the very top of his head, the figure's about 6.5 inches in height, or he's just a little over 16 centimeters tall. But yeah, I did want to bring back in the VHS cover art, so I'm just going to bring the camera just back a little bit slightly so I can actually bring this in. One thing I really like that Diamond did do here with the Dragon, they actually packaged him inside of a sort of VHS clamshell. It's really good, really, from a packaging standpoint. I can't imagine that they're using too much material for, I mean, really, when you consider it's cardboard wrapping all the way around. And then contained inside, as we certainly saw in the unboxing of this at the beginning of this video, inside there were plastic trays. Again, great for presentation. It looks really good on a shelf. The only thing about it, though, is to take Bruce Lee out of the packaging, as you probably had already seen. I really did have to destroy it. What it involves is having to open up the inside here, ripping the plastic away from the cardboard, then to the pull out. Let me just grab the tray here. Pull the tray out, and then all your accessories, of course, are inside. I wonder if this is something that they could consider doing differently. Maybe if they could have put like tabs or something on the inside where you'd be able to remove the tray out, or even if they had found a way to shrink wrap this and then have it so that you could open it up and immediately just pull the accessories all out, because then you could store Bruce Lee and all his accessories back and put them back into the clamshell, making it look just as good and just as new as when you first get the figure. Because the packaging, I think, is way too good just to destroy it in order to get the figure right here. Ultimately, that's exactly what I ended up having to do in order to get Bruce Lee. I mean, like, the packaging is just so good. Look on the front, certainly on the back. It looks exactly, even like the spine, looks like an old VHS cover or an old video cover. Again, it's certainly something I would love to see them find still a use to do this with future figures, but maybe find a more collector-friendly packaging, which make things a little bit more easier for people like myself to be able to remove all the accessories out, but then still put them back in, and the packaging looks just as good as it was before. Despite my slight disappointment with having to destroy the packaging, at least it allowed me to get all the accessories out that we'll have a look at right now. First, Bruce Lee comes included with an oval black display stand. I'm certain at some point Diamond had used this display stand with other figures before. In this case, though, it would be completely different in the sense that they did print Bruce Lee and the Dragon on the top of it with a divided nunchuck in the middle, done nicely here in red. Like I said, it's just a standard oval-shaped display stand. Certain, again, they've used it with other figures before. And there's one singular peg up at the top here that can attach to either one of Bruce's feet, and there's peg holes on the undersides of both. Moving out to the side, the figure comes also included with a pair of tonfas. Now, these aren't the T-tonfas, the ones that have the little extension handles. These are just your regular batons that he can hold in his hand. Although right now, he's not going to be able to hold the tonfas, as he does at least come with some other swappable hands that'll change out here in a moment. Doesn't look like there's any paint here actually on the batons. It looks like it's just simply the molded black plastic. The figure also comes included with a slightly longer staff, again molded here in the same black plastic. The figure also comes included with two versions of Nunchuck. One is a regular bendable plastic version that does have at least the painted chain dividing the two ends of the batons. And like I said, it's flexible enough. It doesn't have a wire frame or anything like that where you can actually keep a permanent pose for it. But at least you could be able to pose it in both of his hands, which I'll do in a second. So you have that. And then there's a secondary version of that same nunchuck, although this one does have the whoosh, swooshing effect. Nicely done and handled here by using the clear translucent plastic. It is not as soft, granted, as the plastic they use for the nunchuck, so just be careful. But other than that, I mean, it really looks fun to have that also include with the figure. And like I said, the figure does come include with some swappable hands because he's not going to be doing much of anything, at least in the holding department, with a couple of closed fists on the ends of his forearms. At least, though, the figure comes included with a couple of gripping hands. And both of the hands seem to be the same. Some additional paintwork's been added in there as well. In some of the cases, actually, the hands look a little more bruised, like he's been in the middle of combat or something, like really bloody-looking knuckles. But at least they do have a little bit of paint on them. And like I said, these are the ones for holding weapons. So let's just, I don't know, doesn't really matter. Let's just choose this hand for at least the time being. We're going to wiggle one of the hands off the forearms. And you'll see right away when we remove it how small of a peg that is. I'm so used to pegs being maybe at least a half bit longer, but these are really short, stumpy pegs. I'm going to go ahead and take the appropriate hand with the thumb going in and just wiggle that back onto the forearm, plugging in place. And once that's certainly in place, then you can go ahead and take any one of the weapons. Let's take the swooshing nunchuck for now and display it in his hand. The hands, I will say, are a little more of a bigger grip. So things like nunchucks, for example, will sit a little more looser in Bruce Lee's hand. But it fits well. I just wish it was a little bit tighter. Now, I probably could easily fix this by heating the hand, putting in hot water, for example, and closing the grip in just a little bit more. That might actually help to hold the weapons just a little bit better than what they do. The other thing he comes for hand-wise, at least, let's put the figure back down here. There we go. Figure also comes included with a couple of gestured hands, too. You know, Bruce Lee, I feel, would be complete without a couple of gestured hands. And I'd be probably inclined to display that, of course, with one of the hands probably holding the accessory and then another hand maybe with a gestured hand. And to do the exact same thing, I know we're rinsing and repeating the steps here, but we're going to go ahead and remove once again the hand from the forearm and then just replace it with a gestured hand instead. And I like the fact that they did actually include a couple of gestured hands. That just so seems like something Bruce Lee would have. So those are the accessories. We're going to move everything out of the way. And let's get a closer look now at Bruce Lee himself. A well-sculpted figure, though I will say it seems like it's something slightly off on his face. I was looking at it, I was trying to pinpoint what exactly it was. I mean, looking at the lower half of his face and then looking at the top half of his face, maybe something is a little off on his mouth. I think the head sculpt is still good, though. Like the hands we looked at earlier, though, they did add a red wash to it. So it sort of, in a way, does make Bruce Lee look a little bit more bruised and battered. If you look at his body, all over these places, there's spots in which I'm pointing out all these little red marks that they've added. I guess they did want to add a little bit of contrast to make some of the sculpting of his torso, because he's very muscular, both in his torso and his arms, stand out. But yeah, the red at some points, in some of the places, do come across like he's awfully bruised. It's a very nice muscular figure, though. I think they've handled, head sculpt-wise, though, like I said, is a little off, just a little off. But I think the head is good, as well as the body. I think that my favorite thing, really, about the Bruce Lee is probably the way they've sculpted the torso. I think I probably just would have pulled the paint back just a little bit, though. Now, of course, he is shirtless here, but at least he does get himself the longer black pants that he's known to have in the films. A big baggy pants, but doesn't limit the articulation. I mean, certainly his figure is quite articulated, where we're going to get into that in a second. Of course, he does have the white socks and his loafer shoes that he has with the undersoles painted in a sort of an off grayish beige. Of course, you got the peg holes in the undersides of the feet as well. For the articulation on Bruce Lee, he's quite poseable, actually. His head rotates all the way around. Just one last time to show you guys the sculpting. Hair's handled really well in this figure as well. Spin this guy around quickly. Yeah, for me, really, I just think like the red, maybe it's just too red on the figure. It does really make him look like he's very bruised. Anyways, the head does look down only just by a little bit. It does also look up just a little bit. And you can also rock Bruce Lee's head back and forth. As for his arms, they rotate all the way around. At least on mine, I've noticed it squeaks, it creaks. But at least the arms do rotate all the way around. He does also have the means to allow the arms to come out. Although it seems on this figure, I can't quite get them out at a 90-degree angle bend. In fact, they only seem to come out at about 45 degrees. A lot of that probably could be contributed to the fact the size of the shoulders that they're using and the socketed joint on the inside of the torso probably limit any more articulation than what I can pull off right now. Figure does have a swivel on his bicep on both the sides. Figure does also have a double hinge on the elbow on both the sides. And the figure does also have a swivel on the hand. Yeah, also there as well. Figure has an upper torso ball joint. Figure seems to have also a swivel joint in the waist, although it seems really stiff. Actually, the more I look at it, the more I think it's actually just all one piece. It's only just an upper torso ball joint here for Bruce Lee. Legs do split out. You can get a full splits happening here for the dragon. You can take the legs and bring them forward and bring them back. And while you're doing that, you may notice, yeah, the legs do drop down a bit. Easily can be fixed by just popping the legs back into place. Not quite 3/4 of the way up the thigh, but a little higher than that. He does have a swivel cut, so you can swivel the leg also out as well. So if you want to get him in a more sparring pose, you can do that. Bruce Lee does have only a single hinge in the knee. It doesn't allow any further articulation below the knee. So basically all the swiveling is going to happen up here and not down here. The figure does also have an ankle pivot. This, as you'll see as well, they did go in there and paint the hinge. It's a downside, unfortunately, because every single time I've moved the foot back and forth, it is gonna, yes, flake the paint. But at least it seems like they did use a hinge joint color that's matching that of the sock. It looks like they actually did use a white peg. So even when the paint eventually does flake off completely, at least I've still got a white peg underneath. It would be horrible if it instead was like a black peg. You would see it right away. And the figure also does have a nice ankle pivot going for him as well. It's a nice looking Bruce Lee, really. I mean, he's well posed. The head sculpt, I think, is close enough. And I do like the color scheme on this guy. I do think perhaps maybe like the red was a little too extreme, because in some of the cases, especially like his arms and his hands, it looks like he is really battered and bruised. The figure does have quite a lot of accessories going for him. I don't know whether I'm just looking to display him, I think, with one nunchuck with both the hands sharing the duties, or maybe just instead displaying him with a swooshing nunchuck, because I think that's really a nice touch. The figure also comes included with a decorative display stand. Again, going back, though, to the VHS clamshell casing. Love the idea. Love the idea that Diamond Select did do that here for Bruce Lee. And actually, they've done that for a lot of figures that we're going to be looking at in upcoming reviews. They've also done it with the John Wick, a couple of Cobra Kai figures. Again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We're going to look at that for some future videos. Love the clamshell concept. I just wish that it was a little bit more consumer friendly, because I really don't want to get rid of that packaging. I mean, I could probably put the tray back in and do my best to kind of glue back in the plastic. But being that it's cardboard after all, I don't think I'm really ever going to fix it and make it look as good as new. I wish, again, that they could have found a means to either shrink wrap the packaging where once you cut the wrapping off and you open up the clamshell, all the accessories were right away accessible, or found a way to have those trays removable and then put them back in. So like I said, the packaging looked as good as new. A decent looking dragon from the folks over at Diamond Select. For this version of Bruce Lee, they've got him with his more traditional black pants. I'm sure at some point they're probably going to be releasing him in his yellow jumpsuit. That would be a figure I'd love to see in this style and this level of articulation, packaged the exact same way in a clamshell case. I mean, running with just that clamshell case concept alone, how many figures of Bruce Lee could they put out? I mean, how many figures of any character could they put out with interesting, unique clamshell cases? Again, I already talked about this probably ad nausea, but still I wish that they could have made the case a little bit more consumer friendly, just so that you didn't have to destroy the packaging if you ever wanted to open up the figure and put it on display, which I certainly would like to do in the case here of Bruce Lee. Diamond has been doing lots of Dragon collectibles in the past, not only both the figures that we're looking at here in this case, but also gallery statues that we've looked at here also on this channel. If you are a big fan of Bruce Lee and didn't know that Diamond was doing so many Bruce Lee collectibles, figures, and more, certainly go back and check out all the ones I've looked at over the years. Now, this Bruce Lee does come with some good, decent accessories. It comes right now. I've got him displayed with the staff. Probably the least interesting thing to have displayed with the figure, but I kind of like that it sort of balances off the way he's posed right now. Figure comes included with two versions of Nunchuck, one with the swooshing effect. He comes with two versions of the Tomfas, and he comes with some swappable hands. I didn't decide to display him with the display stand just because it would have thrown his balance off. His balances seem to balance fine on his own. That he doesn't really necessarily need a display stand, but at least they customized the stand uniquely for the dragon, where it actually says the Bruce Lee dragon on it. Nice work from Diamond Select. As I already said, like, the paint is pretty good on this figure, perhaps a little bit too red for my liking on the body and on the face. And like the lower half of his mouth, I think doesn't read as much like Bruce Lee to me. Overall, a really nice looking figure from Diamond Select. What do you guys think of the dragon, the Bruce Lee action figure? Let me know down below in the comments section. And once again, a big thank you to the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide this sample of the dragon that we could have a look at in this review. If you guys are interested and would like to see more from what Diamond Select are putting out, sort of get a sneak peek, VIP treatment, check out also their YouTube channel. I'll provide the link down below in the video description. It'll show you all the stuff that's in the pipeline and all the things that are about to hit store shelves and online. Also, if you are new here and you're enjoying the content that you're seeing and you haven't already done so, make sure that you're hitting the subscribe button down below, that you're turning also as well the bell notification so you're going to get reminders every single time a new video is going to be popping up. And also, speaking of which, popping up at the very end of this video will also be popping up a playlist of all the other Diamond Select stuff I've looked at over the years, including some of those Bruce Lee collectibles and statues that we've looked at in the past. Lots of other videos coming your way, guys. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.